Well, it's been a fun off-season in the NFL, maybe more fun than the regular season, according to some on Jamey Eisenberg's Twitter page. We're about to talk to Jamey because another blockbuster trade going down in the NFL. The Chiefs trading Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins. Our NFL insider Jason Lockenfora reporting that for us. Taking a look at wide receiver PPR rankings, according to our fantasy consensus, there is Tyreek Hill sitting in number 4. What is going to happen now that he is with the Dolphins? All right, so let's welcome in Jamey Eisenberg. It looked like it was between the Dolphins and the Jets. You said worst case scenario would be the Jets, so that's not the worst case scenario, but this is now not the Chiefs. It is the Dolphins. Tell us about the impact with Tyreek Hill.
I'm trying to talk myself into it, Amanda, but it's just not the same. I mean, obviously there's a huge quarterback downgrade, but it's not going to be, I think, horrific. It's a situation where, Tua, if he's right, and you got to hope that Mike McDaniel and Teron Armstead and Connor Williams and the offensive line and the new coaching staff and now the new weapons can get Tua back to the level that he was at Alabama. And, I went and I looked in 2019 when he had Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith and clearly, one of the best receiving corps in college football history when you talk about the numbers that those guys put up and certainly their ability and what they translate to the NFL, at least that's the hope. He was 33 touchdowns in 9 games. He averaged 315 yards per game in those 9 games. So when you give him quality players, he should be able to produce. And this is one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver based on speed that he's ever played with, certainly at the NFL level. And so Waddle and Ced Wilson and Mike Gesicki and the guys that they have there. So this is a big opportunity for Tua. So I think Tyreek Hill loses clearly, but I don't think he loses that much. So when I update my rankings, he'll still be a top 10 guy. He goes from a round 1 pick to a round 2 pick. And you just got to hope that he still gets the ball enough times and Mike McDaniel's creative enough to make him still one of the elite players at his position.
All right, so you sort of talked to us about the Tyreek Hill impact there. Talk to us about Tua. You put it on your Twitter. People have been very active reacting to this news, as they should. And you said, hopefully this makes Tua better. How does this impact him?
So he goes from, a guy that was still, prior to this move, someone that I would target as a sleeper because I do think that the new coaching staff there is going to make him better and just, better offensive line, better protection in front of him is going to make him better. Now you give him this guy and what Tyreek Hill was able to do. We're going to find out pretty quickly. Was it Mahomes that made Hill or did Hill make Mahomes? Probably both. And so hopefully Hill does some great things to help Tua Tagovailoa become that quarterback that he was drafted to be and who the Dolphins thought they were getting a few years ago. So Tua now becomes in the top 12 conversation. He's going to be right around Derek Carr as somebody that benefits hugely this offseason with a new weapon and a better passing game overall, but not a slam dunk number 1 quarterback yet. He's going to have to prove it, but it just goes to show you the depth of this position and how good fantasy quarterbacks are this year that you don't have to reach for one. We did a draft on Thursday. The first quarterback off the board was Josh Allen, who will now be the number 1 fantasy quarterback, and he wasn't selected till round 5. Now, analyst drafts, the ones that we do in-house, typically quarterbacks fall, but I think if you reach for a quarterback in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you're making a huge mistake because I'll take my chances with Tua maybe in round 10 as opposed to reaching for a quarterback like Josh Allen in round 5.
A new weapon, another weapon for Tua because there are quite a few of them on this offense. Give us the impact for those guys.
So Jalen Waddle was a guy that was a top 12 receiver for me prior to this move. He'll still be a top 20 guy because he's going to have all the single coverage he could ask for with all the attention that Tyreek Hill's going to get. So you're still going to draft him now probably in that round 4, round 5 range. He's going to lose a little bit in non-PPR. So it's a downgrade for him. And then we'll kind of see how this all shakes out. My guess is we're going to hear a Devontae Parker move coming in the next couple of days because they bring in Ced Wilson. They keep Mike Gesicki. They probably want to move on from Devontae Parker if they can. But if they keep Parker, it's a pretty good receiving core across the board. So Ced Wilson is more of a guy you're going to take with a late round flyer because, again, he'll have a lot of open opportunities. Mike Gesicki's still a number 2 tight end, but he benefits a little bit. The hope would be is that Mike McDaniel, who did some great things as part of that coaching staff in San Francisco with George Kittle, that can sort of carry over to Mike Gesicki's game as well. But clearly it's a pecking order of Tyreek Hill 1, Jalen Waddle 2, and those are the guys that fantasy managers are going to gravitate toward.
Let's go to his former quarterback. We know Chiefs fans are very sad. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes may not be, I don't want to say, may not be too pleased about this. What does this mean fantasy-wise for Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, he can't be happy. I don't know how anybody from the Kansas City side of things is happy about this, aside from the people writing the checks, not having to give Tyreek Hill that big payday. But Patrick Mahomes loses. So he was in contention to be the number 1 fantasy quarterback. I know my 2 colleagues, Dave Richard and Heath Cummings, had him ranked number 1. He was number 2 for me behind Josh Allen. So now he'll fall a little bit. He'll still be a top 5 guy, and we'll have to wait to see if there's a Marquez Valdez-Scantling signing or what they do in the draft to sort of replace Tyreek Hill. But Juju Smith-Schuster is not the answer. Mecole Hardman might be a good replacement for what they do offensively, but he's not going to be the same statistical producer like Tyreek Hill does and not scare defenses like Tyreek Hill does. clearly having Travis Kelce is a big boost for any quarterback. So he's not going to be a guy that falls off tremendously, and you don't have to have the same concern like you do with an Aaron Rodgers because of what's still left there in Kansas City. So I'll still draft Patrick Mahomes as a top 5 quarterback, but he now goes from 2 to 5, and I would take Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson ahead of him as of now.
And the guys left in Kansas City, I mean, Kelce, Juju, what's the impact here?
Yeah, it's not a bad thing when you tell me Travis Kelce's getting, I don't know, maybe 500 targets now with the loss of Tyreek Hill. So he's still the number 1 tight end. Still maybe now a little bit closer to Mark Andrews, who's number 2, but Travis Kelce doesn't lose too much in this opportunity, in this scenario here. I think the ones that you got to look at is, okay, so who steps up and fills the role? Again, is it going to be a Marquez Valdez-Scantling type of player? I think this is Mecole Hardman's opportunity. Remember when they drafted him in the second round a few years ago? It was when Tyreek Hill was going through the off-the-field situation, and they thought that he might be suspended. And in the games that Tyreek Hill has missed due to injury, not so much last year, but in previous years, Mecole Hardman has stepped up and produced pretty good numbers. So he's certainly a sleeper to look at. Juju Smith-Schuster goes from a borderline number 3, number 4 receiver to certainly closer to a number 2, number 3 receiver. So I think he's the one that will get drafted first. Mecole Hardman's the one that I'm going to kind of have my eye on. And again, if it is a Marquez Valdez-Scantling type of player signed, that's also somebody that falls into the sleeper category as well. But clearly none of these guys are Tyreek Hill. Don't expect anybody to step into that role and put up those type of numbers, top 5 numbers. That's just not someone that's on the roster right now.
I just realized Linda, I don't even know if she works here, huge Kansas City fan, and I have to bring her some tissues now. Jamey, thank you so much for joining us here at CBS Sports HQ Fantasy Football today. I mean, just a ton of emergency pods going over every. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.